everybody. My name is Gaynor Milky from Charisma Inc., and this is Moving the Needle. And we are talking about digital transformation for accounting firms with my co-host John Higgins from Higgins Advisory. And today we have a special guest, Dan Berenholtz from Stanford Tax. So, John, I'll give you a chance to introduce yourself, and then also Dan, since you and Dan have been kind of collaborating on educating the profession about AI and tax.
Yeah, so thanks, Gaynor, and hello everyone. And so this whole series, Moving the Needle, as Gaynor mentioned, is focused on helping you as CPAs to understand the different things you can do in your practices to move the needle on your digital transformation. And as we know, artificial intelligence is all the talk of the town, and there's different ways that artificial intelligence technology is being integrated into other applications. And so we have Dan here as our guest to talk about how Stanford Tax, which I've had the opportunity to work with Dan and Venkat and their team to really understand Stanford Tax and how it can help to automate, help to streamline the whole data gathering process for tax preparation, as well as other capabilities, which Dan will talk about. But it's a great example of how you can take one technology, one tool, and move your firm forward at a pretty good pace very quickly. So with that, Dan, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we can talk about Stanford Tax.
Sure. Gaynor, John, thanks for having me. So, as you mentioned, Dan, CEO, co-founder of Stanford Tax. I'm born and raised in New York, and we're based in New York. Um, I studied engineering, went to Cornell for undergrad, Stanford for grad school, and uh, you know, came into this industry about 5 years ago through actually I became interested in the workflows of this industry through my own work with my accountant. My experience was not very positive, and it made me curious to learn more about how I started talking to friends about how they work with their accountants, and then next thing you know, I'm asking them to set up conversations with me to have with their accountants. And I quickly realized that as much as my experience as a client was not great, the experience of accountants on their side is even worse. And coming from an engineering background, it made me think about how can we take what they're doing currently and improve upon that, and really saw a lot of room for improvement there. And together with my co-founder Venkat, we decided to build software for the space.
I think that's absolutely amazing. You saw a problem and you decided that you wanted to, solve it, and it definitely having a big impact on the profession. So that's something we wanted to talk about today. Maybe you can give us a little bit of background, Dan, on exactly what does Stanford Tax do, and how do firms use it?
Sure. So one of the big pain points for accounting firms till this day in 2024 is the intake process, and specifically what we keep hearing over and over again as a kind of like a visual for the frustration is an accountant sits down to work on their client's return, and they then figure out that that's missing, and figuring out what's missing to begin with is a big pain. But then chasing the clients to give you all those things that are missing, that's an even bigger pain. And we that's the problem that we set out to solve, is to help you with the intake process, and to take the information that comes in and to organize that in a way that will be very organized and efficient for your preparation process. So and the way that Stanford Tax does that, what we realized, this we didn't realize this from day one actually, but what we eventually realized is that in order for us to automate the intake process in a way, um, in a way that would be very personalized for clients, we would need to be able to access the data that's in the tax filing software that firms use to prepare and file their taxes. And that's because all of the information regarding what you expect to receive from your client, what, all of that is all of that year information is in the tax filing software. And so what we do at Stanford Tax is we found a way to integrate with these seven of the major tax filing software in order to leverage the prior year data to generate a personalized questionnaire and checklist for each of your clients so that your client will take a look at that checklist and questionnaire and will feel as if though you went in and set that up especially for them. And there's a couple of nice things about that. Number one, your client feels like they're getting a very personalized service, but the other thing is your clients are much less likely to miss information because it's guiding them through literally everything that you're expecting to get from them. And then on your side, what we do is we package everything that comes in into a nice work paper, a PDF work paper. And at the very top of the work paper is a checklist that Stanford Tax automatically marks completed as the documents come in, as the client fills in their questionnaire, so that at a glance, you'll be able to see what's still missing for your client.
And I think, Dan, the fact that you customize that specific to the individual clients is key because, we've all had situations. I use the, when you're talking, I'm thinking about when I go to a new doctor and you got to fill out those lengthy forms and you answer certain questions, and based upon how you answer certain questions, why are you asking me all these other questions? They don't apply any longer. And a lot of that has to do with some of them are paper-based, but anything you can do to make it easier for the client is going to pay big dividends for everybody all along the way. And the way I see like this whole area of tax automation, it kind of like a three-legged stool. One leg, of course, is the actual preparation of the return. And that, if you think about it, that's been pretty well automated now with a lot of good solutions out there in the market. Then you have the tax research leg of the stool, which is really moving forward very quickly with generative AI tools. And now you have this third leg that you're focused on, which is just the whole data issue, getting the client data efficiently, managing that data, bringing that data into the tax software, and then figuring out how to archive it and what to do with it, and take advantage of that information for next year's returns. And I know in my work with you in Stanford Tax, what I've seen is you guys are working on all those areas. So you're on the right track, in my opinion, for sure, to be focusing on this area.
I just wanted to back up a little bit because I want to make sure that people understand with Stanford Tax, then it sounds like the checklist that clients receive, I mean, that's dynamic. So when their, taxes have changed from one year to the next, they're going to receive a different checklist. Correct?
That's right. Yeah. And the checklist is one that you can add items to the checklist if they're, let's say you have a conversation with your client at the beginning of tax season, they tell you about that new electric vehicle they purchased, and now you need their, clean vehicle report. You can add items to the checklist, but the whole idea is that 98% of that is going to be automated for you.
So how many users do you have now on Stanford Tax? Because I know you only launched it probably 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, we now have hundreds of new firms that actually just signed up over the past month, 2 months. With our industry, all of the it's very seasonal, right? So everyone comes in November, December, and we're still seeing a lot of new firms coming in even now in beginning of January. We expect it to continue until mid-January.
Well, I think part of that is probably to a shift, I think, in the market where people are understanding that the using AI and other digital transformation tools is no longer just a futuristic hope. It's here and now, and if you want to survive in like this era, you're going to have to get comfortable with it. Is that something that you're seeing as you're talking to accounting firms and bringing them on board?
Yeah, I think people today they they want to be able to be more productive with less human resources. Part of that, I think, is the trend in the industry where As you know, it's harder to hire accountants these days. There's less new accountants coming out of school and into the workforce, and so firms are left with a few options. One is, you know, they could just fire their clients and just stop growing their firm. They can outsource offshore, or they can take advantage of the AI, you know, tools that exist out there to help them do more with what they have. And I think a lot of firms are seeing that that last option is, you know, is one that they should really consider, especially now that AI has become as powerful as it has.
Hmm. When it seems like it kind of almost happened overnight where we're all getting really comfortable with AI now, internally in the accounting firms. What I've heard, seen from the research is that consumers are not quite as comfortable with it. So, I mean, do you have any thoughts on, if a firm is using AI? I mean, Stanford Tax is kind of like a standalone tool that you can use on the, client organizer side. Um, do you have any thoughts on how you're going to expand Stanford Tax to support like the advisory relationship, other than obviously saving time and, making it easier to get the documents that you need to see the client picture?
So we're, you know, we're very focused on the tax preparation process at the moment. We're not
Mhm.
thinking too much yet about advisory. Even within the tax preparation life cycle, there's still a lot more that we can automate that we're not automating yet. Right now, we've been very focused on the intake and the organization into a work paper, but there's the
Mm-hmm.
whole, you know, preparation side of things. I mean, right now today, once you know, Stanford Tax will generate that work paper for you after the information comes in, and then you'll export that work paper, and that's where Stanford Tax currently stops in your workflow. You know, you'll still bring that into you know, Adobe and use TickTie Calculate to mark up your documents, or one of the other, you know, PDF viewing softwares out there. You know, then you'll enter that manually into your tax software, use something like a Gruntworks. It's a very, you know, clunky experience, you know, shuffling between whatever PDF viewer you're using to then, you know, leveraging like a Gruntworks or like a SurePrep. It's just a very clunky experience. And we think that we can really streamline the entire process end to end. And so that's what we're looking at and what we're
Mm-hmm.
focused on right now.
And I think, Dan, important feature of Stanford Tax is the fact that you're really agnostic to the tax preparation software, right? And you work with, all the leading tax software applications. Can you talk a little bit about how that process works as far as getting the data into the tax software?
Sure, yeah, it's super simple. And as you mentioned, you're right. We work with seven of the leading um, software. It's going to be eight soon. Um, you could see on our website, or maybe I'll just quickly mention, you know, CCH Access, Pro System FX, you know, the Intuit softwares, Lacert, Pro Series, Pro Connect, UltraTax, um, Drake. I know I'm missing one, but we're working on ATX as well.
Okay.
And the way that the integration works, it's super simple. All you have to do is get the backup file from your tax filing software. And within Stanford Tax, we guide you through the steps. I mean, you probably already know the steps for your own tax software, but we guide you through the steps. You get the backup file, and then you just drag and drop it into Stanford Tax. Stanford Tax then understands the information in the backup file, generates that list for each of your clients, generates that questionnaire that's pre-populated and personalized. Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, it's from a programming perspective, you know, how long did it take you to develop something to like before you could go to market with it? I'm just curious.
It's you know, it's a great question. So our very first product, this was, you know, maybe 4 years ago when we first launched. It was before we were able to wrap up any of the integrations. And so tax season was beginning, and it's a seasonal industry, as we mentioned. So, if you're not going to launch something by January 1st, you've just, you have to wait until the
Oh,
next
dear.
year. And we were in a
Yeah.
position in the very beginning where we didn't have the integrations, finalized. And so our product was a questionnaire that was blank, right? It was
Mhm.
blank. It wasn't personalized. Um, and and we're like, you know what? Let's see if we can sell this. I mean, this is what we have right now. And firms didn't want to use a product that wasn't personalized for their clients, which in retrospect, it makes complete sense. If we knew back then what we know now, we would
Mhm.
have just been like, let's just wait until the next tax season, I mean, it is what it is. We'll just wait. But back then we were like, no, let's try. I mean, these firms are sending PDF organizers anyway, like um and so we were pretty quick to get a product to the market, but it took us, um, but that initial product wasn't very popular. So it took us like a couple of years and before we were able to launch with all of the integrations that we had.
Well, I think that's actually a great, I mean, it's a great story and, kind of acting before you're ready too, because, sometimes you have to go to the market and the market will also tell you you know, what you're looking for. You need to know your customer. So to
Yeah.
that point, from an accounting firm standpoint, I mean, do you have any advice for firms that are looking at all of these AI tools and different things that they could be doing like during tax season? And like, where do you think firms should begin? Like,
So, you know, as I mentioned, the firms that we speak to, really one of their biggest time sucks is the intake process and taking that information and managing and organizing that information. So, my advice to firms would be, I mean, first, I think it's important for firms to have a good sense of where time is being spent. That's number one, right? Because based on that, you can determine, what should you optimize, right? And if, like many other firms that we speak to, a lot of your time is being allocated to the intake process and to, organizing, figuring out what's missing, chasing clients for documents. If, then, I would encourage you to look at the products out there. I mean, I'm biased, obviously, towards Stanford Tax. I think we have you know, I think we have the best intake product out there. But again, I'm biased. But look at solutions out there to help you automate that. A lot of the practice management software out there, they don't leverage the information from your tax filing software, so they're limited in what they allow you to do. So I do think it's worth considering, even if you do use a practice management software, to connect that with a dedicated intake tool. And then so that's on that side of things. I think after intake, the next most time consuming part of the process for firms is probably the actual preparation related work, the process of getting the information into the tax software, figuring out, annotating, signing off, all that
Reviewing.
work. And so my advice there would be, I mean, maybe we're not there yet this tax season with a software that really uses AI to help automate that in a way that does a good job. But my prediction is that next tax season, not this one, but the next one after that, you'll have really great AI based tools for that. We're gonna, we'll be one of the software out there, that you can look at for that. But my advice would be to embrace those software rather than, I think I think AI, when AI first came about, there's a lot of chatter of like, oh, what do we feel about AI? Should we fear AI? What does this mean about the future of our profession and all that? I actually think AI is an incredible thing for the accounting industry and for your profession. I think it will actually allow you to do more with less. Many clients, most clients who come to firms, they want the human interaction, right?
Mhm.
The AI is never going to replace the human interaction. So you don't have to worry about AI taking over your job. That's something that's not going to happen. And so I would embrace AI and think about how you could use AI to make your job easier and to save you time. And this way you could spend more time with your family, spend more time, even with your clients, but doing the
Yeah.
parts of your work that you enjoy with your client, right? So that's my take on it.
And
Mm.
I think an important observation I've had is, I've helped CPAs with technology for a long, long time. And, there's always this tendency to go with the safe solution, like the big players, right? CCH, Thomson Reuters, and so on. But clearly, what's happening in the marketplace right now is innovation is coming from the young startups like Stanford Tax, Tax
Mhm.
GPT. You go down the whole list because you folks, first of all, you got a couple advantages. One, you're starting with nothing. And that's an advantage because when you have to change the way an existing system or platform works, that can be a very big lift. So you start with a clean slate and you understand the latest technologies, in this case AI, and so you can build those from the ground up into your products. So I say all that so that for the folks who are listening and watching to this podcast is that don't just always think about going with the safe bet. Think about looking into these more startup types of solutions because that's where the innovation comes from, and that's where I believe you're going to get access to the latest and greatest technologies. And it's also just one last point on that is you can't wait. Technologies over time for CPAs have generally evolved kind of slowly. I mean, I think about the cloud computing model. It took 20, 25 years for CPAs to really embrace that. This area of automation with AI is moving so quickly that it's imperative for firms to really understand how they can put it in their firms and embrace it. Otherwise, the competition is going to become even more challenging.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of draw a parallel too between accounting and the medical field. If we all still went to our doctor's office and had to fill out like 15 pages of forms
Right.
by hand, we would be like, what just happened here? And with the accounting profession, I think the generations to come are, it's just going to be the way things are done. So, if you don't start serving that new generation, the ones that are, trailing off, that's not going to be a livelihood that's going to last long. But speaking of timing too, like if somebody wants to get started with Stanford Tax, like how long does it take to get set up and get it running like in your firm? Is there time, before tax season now to like dive in and get this done?
So that's one of the really nice things about Stanford Tax. You could literally be looking at your own clients in Stanford Tax 3 minutes into typing stanfordtax.com into your browser because all you have to do is, there will be a button on the homepage called try for free. You can try Stanford Tax completely for free, no credit card required. And then once you're in, there's a button for adding your clients. You'll select your tax software, and it'll just guide you through the steps of getting that backup file. And then, so there really is just a few minutes needed to get it set up, and you don't need to, book a demo with one of our team members or anything like that. You have the option of doing that if you'd like, but it's not even necessary.
That's
And Dan, I
awesome.
know that when I talk about technology with CPAs and particularly with AI solutions, the number one question and concern is data security and confidentiality. So can you speak to that a little bit with Stanford Tax, how you guys address that?
Sure, sure. So we're SOC 2 compliant. That's for those of you who know what SOC compliance is, there was an outside auditor that came in and with when people think about data security, the first thing they think about is encryption. And clearly, all of our data is encrypted at the highest standards, both at rest and transit. But with SOC compliance, there's actually 100+ other things that you need to adhere to in order to get that compliance. And so, we follow all of that, and obviously, data security is our top priority.
Okay, thanks.
So I had one other kind of process question too before we wrap up. Is you had mentioned using Stanford Tax kind of in conjunction or adjacent to a practice management system. So how does that work then? Is there integration between any practice management systems and Stanford Tax, or are you just how do you see the workflow going there?
Yeah, so what we do is when you generate these checklists and questionnaires for your clients in Stanford Tax, we give you the option. So every one of your clients gets a shareable link that's assigned to them, so that you can take that shareable link and send it to your client however you'd like. I mean, you could send it. Most firms do choose to send it directly through Stanford Tax because you can do it in bulk through Stanford Tax, and it's just the most efficient process. But we make it really easy for you to take those shareable links and get them off of Stanford Tax. You can download a spreadsheet and get that into your practice management software, or do a mail merge with your own email.
Oh,
And we are working on deeper integrations with some practice management software, for next tax season. I won't speak about the details there, but there will be like some deeper integrations there. But even today, you can take those shareable links and easily, send those to your clients using whatever system you use to communicate with them.
okay, that's great. I just wanted to kind of close the loop on that because I think that's really important that you can export the data out and then utilize it the way that you need to in your firm. It's not like another standalone solution that's kind of a closed loop. So that's great. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
Yeah.
and
honestly,
even yeah, I mean, I was just talking about now about like the sending the questionnaires to your clients, right? But even on the other end of it, where the information is now in Stanford Tax after your client submitted their questionnaire, after you uploaded the documents into your work paper. So taking that work paper and putting it into whatever DMS or practice management software you're using is a matter of 2 clicks, because you just have to, download that work paper, and then you put it into whatever system you're using. So that's also very easy.
Yeah, that's
well,
great.
that's great. Well, that's amazing. Honestly, like you kind of what I love about what you've done is you were innovative, entrepreneurial, and saw a problem in a profession that you're not an accountant. But I think that's also a huge plus because you have that outside perspective of like there's got to be a better way to do this. And you're obviously breaking new ground and it's working very well for the firms using Stanford Tax from what I hear. So congratulations on breaking into the profession and helping to transform it.
Thank you, Gaynor. And
Yeah,
thank you, John. It's always nice to be here and speak with the both of you.
Yeah, well, thanks for all you're doing to help moving the profession forward. So we all appreciate that.
for
Thank
sure. And we'll put all the Stanford Tax information in the description under the video and go check it out. Free trial, no credit card required.
All
thank you.
right. Thanks, Dan.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.